Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I will now call to order the City Council successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency Housing Authority regular meeting. It is October 10th. We will now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to item number 3, changes to the order of the agenda. Are there any changes this evening from staff?
There are no changes this evening from staff, Madam Mayor, but I would just like to say something for the public's benefit because we did get quite a few emails in regard to item 9A, the building code and fire code that's on tonight, from folks asking about issues related to the REACH code, and we wanted to say, thank you for those emails. That issue is definitely on our radar, and we already have that scheduled for a study session with the council and the community in January, so that'll be coming back, and we'll be talking REACH codes in January.
Very good, thank you. Any changes to the order of the agenda from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, we will move to item 4, report from closed session.
There's no report from closed session tonight.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to item 5, presentations. I will be presenting a proclamation designating October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm going to be presenting this proclamation to Karen Ferguson, who is the CEO of CORA, which stands for Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. CORA is the only agency in San Mateo County solely dedicated to helping those affected by intimate partner abuse. So Karen, if you'd like to join me up here. Hi, Karen. So tonight, the proclamation states designating October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas 1 in 3 women and 1 in 3 men experience some form of physical or sexual violence and/or stalking by their intimate partner in their lifetime. And whereas experts estimate that in the United States, the costs of intimate partner rape, physical assault, and stalking exceed $9.3 billion each year, nearly $6.6 billion of which is for direct medical and mental health care services. This includes almost $1.6 billion per year in productivity losses. And whereas there were 8,283 requests for service through Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse, CORA's 24-hour crisis hotline, and law enforcement referrals last year, and 1,083 adults and teens received community education on healthy relationships and the impact of intimate partner abuse. And whereas in San Mateo County, 158 adults and children were provided emergency shelter, and 205 adults and children were provided supportive housing to escape their abusers last year. And whereas 575 adults and children received therapy to help them with domestic violence-related trauma, and CORA fielded 1,862 requests for legal assistance. And whereas intimate partner violence continues to be among the most underreported crimes, and San Mateo County is committed to eliminating all forms of intimate partner abuse. And whereas although progress has been made toward preventing and ending domestic violence and providing support to survivors and their families, important work remains to be done. There is still a need to provide education, awareness, and understanding of domestic violence and its causes, and to understand the complexity of violence as perpetuated within communities and against communities, and the fear of many survivors to report to law enforcement. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Sarah McDowell, Mayor of the City of San Carlos, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby designate the month of October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month to raise awareness about and encourage all residents of San Carlos to do their part to help rid our community of intimate partner violence. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate
I appreciate all of your hard work. Karen's going to give a brief presentation now to the council and our community.
Thank you very much for the honor of getting an opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to share a little bit of information about CORA Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. So, as the mayor just shared with you, there are statistics that we all know about in the media in terms of domestic violence and its unfortunate continued prevalence. And we feel it both locally and within the state and nationally. CORA, as the mayor shared, is the single provider of comprehensive domestic violence services throughout the county. And we actually were formed through a merger in 2003 between two local organizations and provide a wealth of services that I want to share with you today. So first of all, really the heart of CORA and where its beginnings were in 1976 is the hotline. And the hotline is a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year service. The staff are highly trained and provide information from guidance to safety planning to emergency rescue. So if somebody calls and is in harm's way right at the moment, we emergency hotel individuals, and then we have the opportunity to bring them into our safe house programs. Within that is an incredible partnership with the police force and the sheriffs across the county. So in every municipality and throughout the county, we have an emergency response program. So if a law enforcement officer is called to a residence and believes that there might be domestic violence, they actually share immediately to CORA the information, and they ask the permission of the people residing there whether CORA can call them. And with permission, we then call within 24 to 48 hours. And for those people that are willing to engage with us, we then have the opportunity to provide a wealth of different services to them. It's a critical time. In the abuse cycle, it's one of those moments where you can actually catch somebody and start to help them to move out of the cycle. As I said, we also have safe houses. So there are actually 2 safe house programs in the county. Those locations are highly confidential, and that's the point. It is really a place where somebody can go to and regroup and step off the radar, both in terms of the internet and cell phones, as well as physically where they're at, and be able to get support and services. So across the 2 safe houses, we have 28 beds that provide a variety of different configurations for families, for individuals. We're open to any gender. So we serve transgender individuals, we serve men, we serve women, and we serve children. We also have our mental health services. So once people engage, we do make sure that they get that mental health service, and that includes that individual and groups for the adults, but we also focus a lot on the children. So we have tweens groups and teens groups, and we have children's groups, and we have all sorts of ways to connect the children so that we can ensure that they really have the support that they need as their parents are moving forward. Also, as mentioned, we have legal services, and these are vital. We have an incredible team of staff attorneys and legal advocates, and they connect with families, with individuals who are in need. We do help people file restraining orders. We give a lot of guidance through our legal hotline, which answers calls and provides consultation, connects people to the wider array of legal services, and we sometimes represent people in court, including through custody evaluation, custody determinations and divorce proceedings. And finally, we at Cora, as it says in our name, really believe in community education. This is a critical component to us, and so we are out there as much as we possibly can. We go to health fairs, we go to schools, we go to college and universities, and we provide lots and lots of community education. We also run the 40-hour state training for domestic violence so that all of our staff, as well as staff in any sister organization or any organization in the county, can come and have their staff trained so that they can respond appropriately to issues of domestic abuse. So one of the things that we've been doing is developing a bit of a pilot program with that called Speak Up. And it is a way of beginning to take a look at whether we can reach out to all the businesses across the community and engage with them, help them to understand for themselves what do we mean by domestic abuse and relationship abuse? And for their staff, what happens if they feel like one of their staff might be having some difficulties or is getting cyber stalked, something is happening? Or what do they do if they're working, for example, at a nail salon and they bring somebody in and they're noticing there's a bruise on the person's wrist? So all sorts of different ways that we can give information that could help our business community to also be able to be on the front lines of working together with us to make sure that abuse becomes an unthinkable activity and action in our homes. And that is really our goal. So we are proud to be there, and we are honored to be there when families let us in to help us when there has been a situation in their home that has caused trauma and impact to their children and to themselves. But our goal really is to help the community to get to a place where this is just no longer possible. I'll share just a second of how we're funded. So we are a safety net program. So nationally, as part of the Violence Against Women's Act, under Department of Justice, and under a variety of other agencies throughout the U.S. government, we have safety net funding that is about 70% of our funding. Some of that is direct federal, some of that comes through the state, for example, the California Office of Emergency Services. And then we work very closely with foundations, especially foundations where they're in their backyard. And so that's a really important relationship for us and provides us both restricted grants that are for specific programming as well as a little bit of the unrestricted. And then we have individual donations. Those two other pieces of the pie besides the government grants are really critical to us because government grants generally flatline. So they stay the same amount of funding year after year, and we all know the cost of living in the Bay Area doesn't. And they're really designed for the Midwest. So that's a great amount for programming in the Midwest, but it sure doesn't do nearly as much in the Bay Area. And we want to make sure that our services are excellent here and are providing everybody the services they need. So we work very hard to partner in all sorts of different ways to make sure that there is the support for all the programs that are needed in this county. So with that, I will share that normally I talk a little bit about an example of what Cora has done in terms of working with a client. I'm not going to do that tonight because part of why I'm here is because of Karina Castro and everything that has happened and the incredible response that I have experienced as the head of Cora in terms of San Carlos coming out and gathering around and understanding that this was a horrific tragedy, and it demands that we all look at and as a community keep coming together and supporting each other so that this hopefully never happens again. So with that, I thank you very much for the proclamation of this month, of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And you were so eloquent. I appreciate your thoughts and words of support. Are there any questions from my council members? Questions for Karen?
I have a question. I'd just like to make a comment if I can. First, I just want to thank you, Mayor McDowell, for the proclamation. And Karen, thank you for the presentation. And I know that you and I have spoken afterwards, and I know we have an agenda item later today. And I hope that in light of what you talked about with Karina, that we can maybe find some positive out of all this and forge a larger partnership that we can be more helpful as a community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Karen, for your time and your service.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now open it up to public comments. Do we have anyone here in the council chambers who would like to make a comment?
Yes, we do. Deacon Lauren P. McCombs, if you can approach the podium, please.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor Sarah McDowell, San Carlos City Council, and to all others who are present here this evening. My name is Lauren Patton McCombs, and I'm a mother and a grandmother. And I've been a resident of San Carlos for 32 years. I'm a Faith in Action Bay Area community leader, a member of Peninsula Solidarity Cohort, and also I'm a deacon in the Episcopal Church. And many of you may not know what a deacon does. In summary, we basically bring awareness to the problems that are facing our world and our community, and we try to come up with solutions. So that is why I'm here. And I come before you this evening wearing all of these hats because I want us to publicly acknowledge the tragic death of Karina Castro on September 8th. Her 2 young children will no longer see their mother's loving gaze or feel her loving embrace as a result of the domestic violence that occurred just a few blocks from here. It's a tragedy that we didn't need to have happen. But I have to say, I am very encouraged by the City Council and the notion that you may provide funds for a one-time grant to Cora as to provide community education on domestic violence. As a community, we must be united. We must be the eyes. We must see the signs of domestic violence. So I would like to share with you some thoughts about what we can use to empower ourselves. It's important to recognize that we are all worthwhile human beings, that we have power over our lives and we will be not dominated mentally or physically by another. And we will not cause another's irritation. We're not responsible for someone else's irritation, anger, or rage. And we must let women know that if they are in unhealthy relationships, they can make changes in their life without fear of intimidation of another. Each of us needs to have a life that is safe and happy. And we need to let everyone know that they are not alone and that they can ask others for help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deacon.
Thank you. And we do have one hand up on Zoom. John Durkin, you should be able to unmute. Hello, John. I see that you've unmuted.
I am, yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, City Council. I'm here tonight regarding a July 21st, 2022 letter sent to the San Carlos Public Works Department from the State Water Resources Control Board. Included in the letter is the final inspection report for the City of San Carlos collection system. The San Carlos collection system is permitted under the statewide general waste discharge requirements for sanitary sewer operations. This July 21st letter includes 15 findings which are identified as areas of concern. Finding number 1, no testing of pump station alarms except indirectly through supervisory control and data acquisition. Finding number 3, no emergency signage posting at the pump stations. Finding number 4, relatively low fuel level in the generator at the Tierra Linda pump station. Finding number 6, reliance on general knowledge instead of written standard operating procedures. And finding number 15, the non-immediate repair and replacement approach regarding grade 5 defects, which the city does not consider emergency work, such as depressions, offsets, and visible soil. I am not an expert on the topic of wastewater, but several of their findings concern me as a resident and homeowner in San Carlos. Sewage backing up into San Carlos homes is concerning. SARS and other fecal pathogens can be measured in wastewater. The findings of this State Water Board report are truly disturbing. I realize this is not a glamorous topic, but it's an important one if we value the health and safety of our San Carlos residents and the surrounding environment. Today is October 10th. I hope our Public Works Department and San Carlos elected officials are currently actively addressing the findings this report was received from this report sent by the State Water Resources Control Board.
Thank you,
There's
John.
residents, thank you.
And there are no further hands. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
There are no further hands.
No, okay. May I ask that staff follow up with Mr. Durkin regarding his call? Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up public comment on the presentation. We will now move to item 6, council communications and announcements. Council communications and announcements are brief items from members of the City Council regarding upcoming events in the community and correspondence that they have received. And I see 2 hands raised. We'll go to Councilmember John Dugan and then Vice Mayor Rack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, I just want to call out our glorious Park and Rec Department yet again putting on a fantastic event. The Art and Wine Festival knocked it out of the park. It was just so fun to see so many people downtown, such a community, all the artists, all the bands, all the all the participants. It was really inspiring, and personally, it was a lot of fun to see such a length of Laurel Street being used in such a way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also, just wanted to congratulate the Park and Rec Department on a successful Art and Wine Festival, and thank you to all the volunteers who came and put their time in. I thought it was a great success. I was down volunteering myself and saw a lot of people having a fun and enjoyable time, and looking forward to many more of them.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I too am going to chime in and just thank the whole team. I think there were a lot of city employees out there volunteering, and many sheriff's deputies patrolling, and it was definitely a team effort, and the community was so excited to have the Art and Wine Fair back. So great work, and thank you also to all the volunteers who signed up for shifts at all the different booths. I think it was a huge success, so thank you. And I don't see any other hands raised from my colleagues. So we will move on now to item 7, public comment. Persons wishing to address the City Council on matters not on the posted agenda may do so at this time. Please note that each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. We have the Zoom information up on the screen. We'll take comments in person first. Crystal, has anyone given a comment card for this agenda item?
No, I have no comment cards for in person.
Okay, then do we have any hands raised on Zoom?
And there are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, great. We will move on to item 8, the consent calendar. I do have one amendment to the minutes of the August 25th City Council special meeting minutes. It noted that there was a video for the utility graffiti, and I would like to amend the minutes to say that Mayor McDowell presented a series of photos of utility graffiti or markings left from utility companies on sidewalks, streets, and utility poles around San Carlos. That is my my edit. With that, does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve City Council consent calendar items A through I.
Second.
Any further comment? Seeing none, Crystal, could you please call the roll?
Do we need to do it as amended?
Oh, yes?
As amended.
Second.
Thank you. Crystal, could you please call the roll?
Okay. Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Collins,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer Lohan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rack,
Yes.
and Mayor McDowell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to item 9, new business, consideration of introducing an ordinance amending and modifying San Carlos Municipal Code, Chapter 15.04, Technical Building Codes to adopt the 2022 California Building Code Series and introducing an ordinance adopting the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code with the 2022 California Fire Code amendments. And we have Chris Valley here.
All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. Chris Valley, building official. We are here this evening to introduce the 2022 California Code Series, Building and Fire. I want to emphasize that we will be returning to council in January for a study session for the REACH codes. So we're just simply adopting the current REACH code, introducing the current REACH code under the 2022 for right now, if that makes sense. There we go. The California building codes are updated every 3 years. The most recently updated codes will become effective January 1st of 2023. Each code series is developed through a collaboration among multi-state agencies with stakeholder input from architects, engineers, building officials, and industry manufacturers. And local jurisdictions may amend and modify the code, the building code as well. I want to reemphasize that REACH code policy changes are not part of this update, and that staff will return to council in early 2023 for re-review of our REACH code. The current REACH code, though, has been moved from the Energy Code to the California Green Building Standards Code, otherwise known as CalGreen, and that's per a recommendation by the Energy Commission. And then the city's REACH code solar requirements have been omitted because the 2022 code cycle now expands solar to all buildings. We also have adjusted the electric vehicle charging requirements in multifamily buildings and non-residential buildings based upon enhancements to the 2022 building code series. I mentioned this in the perhaps prior adoptions, but the state has bills that directs one bill, 350, Senate Bill 350, that directs the Energy Commission to achieve statewide cumulative doubling of energy efficiency standards in electricity and natural gas by 2030. And then recently, the California Air Resources Board voted to approve a plan banning gas furnaces and water heaters by 2030. So that's a kind of a good example of the direction that the state is going. Just a few items of note with the 2022 code enhancements regarding new homes. The new code requires energy storage systems ready requirements, meaning that the new house needs to be built, prepped for a future like a battery backup type system, and space needs to be allowed for that, and electrical wiring for that as well. So that's a new item for new homes. And then also for new homes, increases the minimum kitchen ventilation requirements so that fans over cooktops have higher airflow to better exhaust pollution from gas cooking and to improve indoor air quality. And just a couple more items. For additions, duct leakage testing is now required for extending any length of existing ductwork. And then there's been updates to roof and ceiling insulation. And then for alterations, if I'm reading the code correctly, your typical furnace replacement in an attic will trigger the need to update the attic insulation. So a typical over-the-counter permit now becomes a slightly more involved endeavor for property owners of more likely the older housing stock in the city. With us this evening is Adam Lokar with the City Manager's Office and Philip Kopernick with Peninsula Clean Energy, and then Mark Lane and David Pucci with the Fire Department, if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Thanks for that presentation. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chris, for the overview. And I just want to acknowledge there's certainly a lot of interest in our community about the REACH codes and our process to get there, and I haven't really lived through that process fully yet myself. Can you just talk about how, so if we're going to have a study session in January, like what is our process of public outreach and involvement and a, how do we get to the next version of our REACH code?
I think Adam Lokar would like to answer that.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Adam Lokar, Sustainability Analyst in the City Manager's Office. Yes, what our Climate Mitigation and Adaptation Plan directs us to do is to continue to promote our REACH code targeting new construction, but then this code cycle begin to look at some of the ways that we can begin electrifying existing buildings. That's a much more challenging, nuanced discussion, and that's our plan in January, is to come back and begin that discussion and get feedback from council on some of the approaches that you may want to pursue. So.
Got it. And is there any public outreach beyond just the normal council study session process?
We don't have anything planned, but certainly can do outreach ahead of that meeting if that's the direction.
Okay. It's something we might want to consider. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Rack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to also just acknowledge, I know we got a lot of emails around this, so thank you for doing the study session in January. And I guess part of the question would be, because I had a chance to talk to some people, I read some of the emails and have some thoughts. So will there be an opportunity for us prior to the study session to perhaps provide some feedback ahead of time, some thoughts around things that, from a council perspective, would be interesting to see at least looked at and see, if staff can do a little more research on and come back with, so the study session is a little more engaged from our end as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're always welcome to your feedback. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions from council. We'll move to public comment. Crystal, do we have anybody here in the room for public comment?
Yes, we do have one speaker card from Peter Hartzell. If you can approach the podium, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor McDowell and the City Council. I know tonight is not the night to dive deep into REACH codes, and I appreciate that the process will pick up in January with the study session. As a citizen, I'm very eager to see how we as San Carlos can remain at the forefront of the climate change mitigation efforts. And I think where we are right now is not a bad place to start, but I think if we don't get serious about existing buildings, both commercial and residential, we're not going to keep pace with the demands on our, the world's climate change. And we as local citizens want to see us, where we're living, taking the lead on that. So I'd really like to see your questions feeding into a process that's rigorous and as accelerated as possible, and I hope is ambitious and bold, and I look forward to participating in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Any other comment cards here in person?
We have no more comment cards for in person, but we do have a few hands on Zoom.
Super, thanks.
So first up is Brett Ehrlich. If you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Brett Ehrlich, I'm a San Carlos resident for 20 years. I think I just want to emphasize and underline the importance of the conversation over the last 20 minutes. And really, I urge you all to continue demonstrating leadership on climate by being more ambitious with the building codes. As you know, based on the city's own climate mitigation and adaptation plan, the emissions coming from natural gas going into buildings represent approximately 30% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the city. That's the second largest contributor behind transportation. In addition, there's increasing evidence that the burning of natural gas, which is largely methane, one of the most powerful of all greenhouse gases, contributes a significant amount of the unhealthy pollution in our homes and community. In order to meet the city's stated goals to reduce emissions, we need to start shifting the way we cool and heat our buildings now. I'm asking you to have a study session on electrifying buildings in January. The timing's right, given that the City Council already agreed to revisit some of the exceptions that exist in the current building reach codes. Plus, due to new federal and state legislation and programs locally, many new financial incentives will be available in 2023 to motivate homeowners to electrify their homes. It's also important to note that last month, the California Air Resources Board voted to ban the sale of natural gas-powered heating and hot water systems across California. So we all need to start getting ready for this shift now. Let's be a leader in California and across the world by demonstrating how communities can lead on climate while simultaneously improving human health and be neutral to positive on the community's pocketbook. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Okay, up next is Kathleen Goforth. You'll be followed by Dashel Leeds.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Goforth. I'm a resident of San Carlos and a member of Peninsula Clean Energy Citizens Advisory Committee. My plan was to make two recommendations for the council's action this evening. One, to eliminate the exceptions in the current REACH code, and two, to direct staff to set a firm date in January for a study session on electrification of existing buildings. Sounds like that study session has already been scheduled, and I'm very happy to hear that. Regarding the existing current code, when the council adopted a REACH code almost 2 years ago for new construction, exceptions from the all-electric requirements were provided for residential gas cooking equipment and fireplaces and commercial kitchens. And the council committed to reconsider and possibly eliminate those exceptions in 1 year, but that never happened. And a week ago, I contacted the building department to try to get a sense of how much demand there has been for those exceptions. I was told that the city's permit tracking system doesn't track how many permit applications are received for new construction, let alone how many include gas infrastructure. So it appears we don't even know whether anyone is using those exceptions, nor how much, if any, new gas infrastructure is being installed. So what this suggests is that at best, these exceptions are unnecessary because for all we know, there's no actual demand for them. And to the extent that they are being utilized, they're allowing an increase in the number of new buildings with gas infrastructure, which will soon become a stranded asset. And in the meantime, saddle the occupants with poor indoor air quality and high gas bills while exacerbating the city's greenhouse gas emissions. So one action I would ask you to take this evening is to eliminate those exceptions. And beyond that, I do encourage the council to move quickly from talking about new construction to address the much more significant issue of existing buildings with gas infrastructure. Unfortunately, Peninsula Clean Energy is rolling out some substantial new incentives for existing installing appliances, energy efficient electric appliances in existing buildings this month. So the timing is great, and I'm glad you'll be talking about that in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, and Dashel Leeds, if you can go ahead and unmute.
Hello, my name is Dashel Leeds. I'm the conservation organizer for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. I'd just like to echo some of the comments of community members tonight in support of strong REACH codes. I agree with Kathleen's comments that we really should tighten up any exemptions, especially blanket exemptions. And there's a lot of great examples of hardship exemptions or infeasibility exemptions out there, where a building applicant has to demonstrate either mechanical or cost infeasibility and then apply for an exemption. Any blanket exemptions could be swapped to that in short notice. Regarding the study session in January, we're really excited for that. We do hope you consider a few things that I'll talk about here. The first is something that some of our volunteers have communicated with members of the council before, but this is Valley Water's Model Water Efficiency New Development Ordinance. We hope you keep in mind some of those model provisions created by Valley Water as part of the next REACH code update that you pursue. And regarding the study of existing buildings, this is crucially important. And as some speakers have mentioned tonight, the writing on the wall is kind of clear. Gas is on its way out, and we're in the middle of a regional transition, fuel switching away from gas and towards electric. So I think that any actions that we can do to limit the spread of new gas infrastructure and to equitably replace existing gas infrastructure is essential to study. So let's future-proof San Carlos and do everything we can to help folks transition to all electric. Each gas pipeline that we build or let continue to operate under our feet will leak methane into our atmosphere and cause all sorts of health effects in the home. And I think, especially regarding the health effects of gas stoves, I'm always surprised when I talk to folks just how many people do not know the negative impacts of gas stoves in their homes and how shocked they are when they actually hear the data on it. There was a meta study in 2013.
You, your 2 minutes are winding down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And there are no further hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate all of that public comment. We'll now open it up to comments from the council. Vice Mayor Reck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate all the comments. And I just, I guess I would put one request in potentially for the study session in January. If some of the stuff that Kathleen Goforth mentioned, I think that would be good data points to understand as we consider some, whether we want to eliminate some of those exceptions to know how prevalent it is. So if that's possible for the January study session, that would be great.
Yeah, the building official let me know that he's already working on putting together that data. He has quite a bit of it already now. And those issues will be covered as part of the study session. And we'll, we took notes on the public comment tonight, so we'll make sure that those other suggestions that have been brought forward get addressed as part of the study session as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments from the council on this item? Okay. Seeing none, thank you again, Chris, for your presentation. That was very helpful. Is this, let me see, where's my, I will now entertain a motion. Vice Mayor.
We're doing both items, okay. Maybe I shouldn't have volunteered if I had to read this much. Okay, see, sometimes it hurts to go first. I move to introduce ordinance number
1589.
1589, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Carlos, amending the San Carlos Municipal Code, Chapter 15.04, Technical Code, Building Codes, to adopt the 2022 editions of the California Administrative Code, California Building Code Volumes 1 and 2, California Residential Code, California Electrical Code, California Mechanical Code, California Plumbing Code, California Energy Code, California Historical Code, California Existing Building Code, California Green Building Standards Code, California Reference Standards Code, 1997 Uniform Security Code, the 2021 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code with amendments and modifications, and Safety Assistance Assessment Program placards? Parentheses. SAP placards.
You're doing great.
Should I wait for a second on that? No, I'll wait for a second.
Do we take both together or one at a time? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? Crystal, could you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Rack?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer Lohan?
Yes.
And Mayor McDowell?
Yes. Okay, would anyone like to give Adam a break?
I'll keep going.
Okay.
I move to introduce ordinance number
1590.
1590, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Carlos amending San Carlos Municipal Code Section 15.04.110 California Fire Code to adopt the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code and the 2022 California Fire Code, including all adopted standards as specified, prescribing regulations governing conditions hazardous to life and property from fire, hazardous materials or explosion, and for providing the fire safety inspection process for hazardous uses or operations, and establishing a Bureau of Fire Prevention, parentheses, San Carlos Fire Ordinance.
Close parentheses.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further comments? Crystal, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Harmer Lohan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rack?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
And Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. We will now move on to item 10, agenda setting. And we have one item, item A, consideration of agendizing an item to consider a one-time grant to Cora, Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. This is an item that I worked with the Vice Mayor on. Tonight we heard from Karen Ferguson at Cora, and she mentioned that given the very horrific murder of Karina Castro, this issue has really been brought top of mind to our community. And so we also heard from Karen this evening about the funding sources of Cora, and it's our understanding that it's very difficult for them to build out new programs. So I think that, and I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor too, but interested in agendizing an item to consider a grant to Cora that would help spread awareness in our community regarding domestic violence and the resources that are available to help. Adam, would you like to add?
I'd just like to thank the mayor and appreciate working with her on this. And I think coming up with looking at this with a one-time grant for education and awareness, I think is a prudent thing to do, and I think it's a good way to start to solidify a stronger relationship with Cora, and one that I hope will be ongoing over time.
Thank you.
You need one more.
Councilmember Palmer Lohan. Okay, thank you, Ron. I hear you. Thank you. Laura?
Yes, I support. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it forward. I certainly support it.
Okay, well, I'm pleased to work with the Vice Mayor on this, so we'll continue and we'll bring this back at our next meeting. Are there any other agenda setting items from council this evening? Okay, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Take care.
Night, everybody.